everyone. Hi. I get to have you guys right after lunch, right? Has anybody eaten lunch? No? You guys are starving throughout? Okay. Oops. Okay, so when you think about the types of people who build apps, this is who we think of. Mark Zuckerberg, who built an app in his college dorm room by writing code. And Larry Page and Sergey Brin, who built Google in their garage by writing code, right? These guys have achieved really, really phenomenal things, but today I'm not talking about them or their journey. Today, I want to talk to you about what you should do if you don't know how to write code and you still have a really good idea for an app or a product. Or if you do know how to write code, but you're not sure that this idea is going to work in the market, is going to make you money, and so you're not sure if you should invest all of your time and energy into building it. I myself know a lot about those scenarios firsthand. So I became an entrepreneur largely by accident. My background is in tech, and before I started building my own companies, I led marketing initiatives at Google, Foursquare, and Microsoft. And this process that I'm going to show to you today, this process of building apps without code, which is crazy, I know, built me my successful app, got thousands of users. In our first year of my first company, $150,000 in revenue, and over $300,000 from investors. And I didn't write a single line of code. So I want to share that with you. So here's what we're going to go over today. I've really got 3 specific tips for non-technical entrepreneurs who want to launch a tech business. First of all, tip number 1, build your first blank by using logic-based tools. I'm going to fill in that blank for you as if we're playing Mad Libs or something. Tip number 2, build your product using simple blank. I will fill in what that tool and resource is for you. And after you've made your first $5,000, use a blank. I will fill all of those things in for you, but this is a really overview of what we're going to talk about today. So let's jump right into it. Approach number 1. And what I'm going to do today, by the way, is I'm going to show you some beginning ways to build apps without code, and we'll gradually get more advanced as we go. So approach number 1, build an invisible app by using logic-based tools. So before I go into what an invisible app is and all that, how it works, I want to show you an example of an invisible app that I launched myself for my own business. You get to see all the kind of behind the scenes of the ugly stuff that I launched first. So this is a screenshot of the very ugly website that I first launched for my first business. At the time, I was working at Microsoft. I had this idea for a side project. And I had the idea on a Monday, and by Thursday, I had this website up. And so it says, become an art collector, get a personal stylist for your walls. And then I wrote an email to myself on my phone. I took a screenshot of it and uploaded it and put it into a little photo screen. I didn't even know how to use Photoshop, so I just did this in PowerPoint, overlaid it on top, made it look like a product, right? And you can kind of see inside of the email, it says, hey, I'm your art advisor. I found a few pieces of art that you might like. Click here to see the artwork. Right? I had no clue how I was going to deliver this to anyone, but I had this idea and I wanted to see if anybody wanted it. So when you clicked on that website to sign up, there was a sign-up form, and I used Typeform to collect people's information to get them to sign up. And I needed to know a little bit about their taste of art and their budget. My first company was an art startup. And I wanted to know a little bit about them so that I could find artwork for them. So I used Typeform to create a sign-up form for them. And this is how the structure of my invisible app worked. So there was a landing page, there was a place for people to sign up. Everybody's sign-up information then went to a spreadsheet, a huge kind of database listing of all of their information. And then what I would do was automatically create this another survey, send them an email with the link to it, and that had their art recommendations in it. Right? This was the very first version of what eventually became an algorithm for matching people to artwork. So this is what that last survey looked like. It was personalized for everyone, and this did it dynamically. I didn't do this and type in for Tara. And so people saw their artwork and art recommendations. And what I did, you guys have maybe taken a survey before where you can answer a question And then based on your answer, it'll ask you a follow-up question. So like, what's your favorite color? And you can choose between red and green and blue. So you choose green. And then it says, why do you like green? So it follows up with a question based on your answer. And what it's doing is it's showing and hiding different things based on your inputs. So that's what I was doing here, right? If you said you liked black and white art, I was hiding other pieces of artwork and showing the black and white artwork. If you said that your budget was $500 and below, I was hiding some of those pieces of artwork and showing others, right? It was using the show and hide logic of the survey. You could also save your information and come back to it later. This wasn't actually a login system, just the survey tool I was using at the time, Survey Gizmo, allowed you to it sends you an email with a link to click so you can come back later. And people would email me and say, oh my gosh, I love your app. This is so cool that you built this. And little do they know I just hacked a survey and some spreadsheets and put this together. So this version of my invisible app got me my first $35,000 in revenue and got us an investment from 500 Startups Accelerator program. And so I want to show you what an invisible app is. As I mentioned, we're going to talk about some beginning ways to build apps without code and then move into some more advanced ones. So an invisible app is a product that has no logins, no passwords. There's nothing in the App Store necessarily, but your customers love them because you come to them. So what you do is you deliver your value and your service via SMS, emails, things your customers already have, right? You come to them. URLs to surveys that you may not be using to actually survey for things, but maybe using them in an unintended way, simple pages, etc. And what you do, in general, to build a invisible app, but also to build any kind of app without code, is what you want to do is you want to look for tools that are based in logic, right? So a logic statement tells the software what to do. I'll give you an example. If I push the first domino, then the other dominoes will fall, right? We've seen a if this, then that sentence before. If you can understand this, you can build apps without code. Another example, if the user clicks the button, then log them in, right? If this, then that. That's the sentence structure. If any of you guys are good at Excel, this is very familiar to you. So I want to show you 6 logic-based tools that you can use if you're interested in building an invisible app. So the first are really simple email tools. A lot of them in their more advanced section have dynamic logic to show and hide different things. And even at the most basic level, when someone signs up, then send them an email, right? Those if this, then that automations are something that allows you to start delivering value to your customers immediately. I'm not talking about sending a newsletter. I'm talking about dynamically sending the right communications to your customers based on things that they do with you. Campaign Monitor is another really good example here. They've got this feature that allows you to send one message, one communication, but dynamically show different things inside of the email to the right person. This is a lot of how we built that first version of my app that I showed you before, the art app, because people who liked photography saw the photography in their email, and people who liked painting saw the painting in their email, and all we did was send out one message. If this, then that. Another example is Sonar. The website is sendsonar.com, and they allow you to send SMS messaging dynamically back and forth to your customers. If you want to meet them via SMS, meet them via email, SMS is a really good way you can do that through Sonar. Also, Typeform. This is the first version of one of the art surveys that we use. It wasn't used for surveying. We weren't asking for feedback. We were delivering the value and delivering the service through something that was based in logic. The survey just happened to be a really good way to do that. And so people got their art recommendations. They could rate them on a 1 through 5 scale. And then we were collecting that information all in a spreadsheet, which served as our database, right? And got smarter about what they liked. This is sort of what Typeform looks like and what the logic, they call them logic jumps in Typeform. If this, then that. And finally, cloud-based spreadsheets are also really good tools, right? You can build really awesome kind of dynamic interactive dashboards, either internally for yourself or externally for your customers this way. And Zapier is a really good tool to connect all of these things together. So as I mentioned before, this first version of this product that we built that was an invisible app where I made my first $35,000, everything was speaking together and connected from Zapier. So for those of you who have an idea for a product, you're not really sure how to get it off the ground, one of the very simple ways to do this is to test your idea with an invisible app, right? No programming skills required. You're going to launch the basics of this. The best way to do this is to think about what are the 3 most important actions someone needs to take in my product, right? So for example, for Facebook, the 3 most important actions someone needs to take is like post an update, follow friends, like posts from your friends, right? If Facebook did nothing else but those 3 things, we would be okay. So for you, you have to ask yourself, what are the 3 most important actions someone needs to take in my product? Usually that means kind of stripping off some of the bells and whistles and extra stuff, but that's okay if it's going to get you your first revenue, get you your first customers, and if you're looking for investment, get you your first investment. This is a really great quote from Reid Hoffman. He says, if you're not embarrassed of the first version of your product, then you've launched too late. I'm going to say that again just so you guys got that. If you're not embarrassed of the first version of your product, then you've launched too late. So version 1 of your product, here's your goal. If you want to take a screenshot of this or write this down, I want you guys to be really clear on what the goal of version 1 of your product is. To figure out, 1, does anyone want this? 2, what features are important? And 3, can I make money? That's it. It's not to figure out like, oh, what's the best way to integrate an algorithm? That's not important. The only thing that's important is, does anyone want this? What features are important? Can I make money? That's your goal with version 1. So that's approach number 1. As I mentioned, we're going to start with some beginning approaches to building apps without code and get more advanced. But you can build an invisible app by using logic-based tools. Again, an invisible app is an app that has no passwords, no logins, but you meet your customers where they are by delivering value via SMS, email, something they already have. And then connecting all of that, automating it with tools like Zapier or logic-based tools. All right. Approach number 2 is to build your product using vertical-specific app tools. So vertical-specific app tools help you build one specific type of app. One specific type of app. So I'm going to show you some examples. Here's a tool called Mighty Networks. Mighty Networks allows you to create your own social network, your own social platform, without writing any code. So you can have people have their own profiles, they can follow each other, unfollow each other, post in the community, they can create their own forms and experiences, they can post surveys for each other to fill out. All of this done by drag, drop, point, click. Mighty Networks allows you to build your own social networks without writing any code. Here's another tool called AppSheet. AppSheet allows you to take a spreadsheet of data and turn it into an app. So if you have database-heavy products, or a product where you need people to be able to change inputs, change things about their own files, input things, etc., visualize things on maps or spreadsheets or whatever it might be, AppSheet is a really great tool for you to check out. You turn your spreadsheet into an app, no code required. Power Apps is also another really good tool to do this, very similarly, very database focused if you have lots of information and data that people need to alter and change, etc. Share Tribe allows you to build your own marketplace app without writing any code. So marketplace where people can buy and sell from each other. If you want to build your own Airbnb, for example, really great way to do this. I actually run a challenge where we create an app in 5 days using Share Tribe and some of these other tools. Motion AI allows you to create your own artificial intelligence chatbots without writing any code. Stencil allows you to create video games without writing any code. Here's an example of a video game that was built, no code required. And I put together, by the way, I'm going to come back to this, but I put together a list of all of these tools. So I see a lot of people taking screenshots. You don't have to take a screenshot of every single one of the tools. You can grab this if you send me a text. So when you use some of these vertical specific tools, you may have some limitations, right? There may be a particular feature that you're really itching to build that's not available through one of those platforms, and you can't quite build this way. And so my encouragement to you is not to get caught up on features that your customers have not explicitly agreed to pay more money for. I do a lot of coaching with entrepreneurs, and I ask them when they get hung up on a particular feature, has anybody told you, are you going to make any more money from this? Has anybody told you that you were going to make more money from this? That they'll pay you any more? So don't get caught up on stuff that's not going to make you any more money or change anything for you. Because again, the goal of the first version of your product is to figure out, does anyone want this? What features are important, and can I make money? So that's approach number 2. For approach number 1, just as a recap, was to build your app via the invisible app method, right? Go to them, use email, SMS, connect different tools together. Approach number 2 is to take a look at some of these vertical specific app building tools, right? Motion AI, Power Apps, AppSheet, etc. Oops. And approach number 3 is that after you've made your first $5,000, you can use an advanced app building tool like Bubble IS. It's one of my favorites. So Bubble works so that you point, click, drag, drop. So the front end of the experience looks just like drawing something in PowerPoint, right? Very simple. You point, click, you drag your shapes the way you want. You essentially design your product. If you've ever used a simple prototyping tool, it feels very much like that as well. And then on the back end, you have a bunch of logic statements. Again, if this, then that. So what happens is it starts sentences, but it's all in English, written as a sentence as opposed to in code. So when the page is loaded, then do this, and you just write the sentence out. Or when the page is loaded and the current user isn't logged in, then take them to the login screen so that they can log in, right? If you can think it through, you can build it. You do have to be able to think it through. It won't read your mind. So one of my favorite examples of this is this website called notrealtwitter.com. And I want to read you the intro to Not Real Twitter because it's a really interesting testament to the changing ecosystem of people and types of people who can now build apps. And it's a really interesting testament to the kinds of technology that is now available to those of us who don't write code. So the intro to notrealtwitter.com says, welcome to Not Real Twitter. Just like Twitter, but worse. A lot worse. The purpose of this site isn't to steal Twitter's business or to give people a chance at a fresh social media start. It is to show the future of software development. Because by 2025, most software won't be made by coders, but instead by people from diverse backgrounds using logic. The person who built this site isn't a software engineer. He didn't use HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Perl, PHP, Python, etc. In fact, he didn't write a single line of code. Enjoy Not Real Twitter. And then there's a nice ending, which is a quick note to Twitter. Please don't sue us. So when you enter notrealtwitter.com, it looks very similar to Twitter. Maybe there are a couple versions behind, but you get the point. You can create a username, sign up with an email and password, set yourself up with a new account, or you can log into your old existing account that you've already created for yourself. Then you end up with a Twitter feed. You can post tweets. You can follow people. You can look at their profile. You can unfollow people. You can see your notifications come in. You can send direct messages. Everything you can do on Twitter, you can do here. And so what I want to show you is just a quick demonstration of this tool, Bubble. It's one of the more advanced apps of that code tools out there. And if you guys want to go ahead and play this video, I just want to show you how this works so you can see it. As they're getting the video up, I'm going to say this. This is what I was going to say after I play the video, but I'll say it now. Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to show you this video. You're going to think it's really cool. And then you're going to move on and say, forget those other 2 approaches, she said. I just want to do the advanced one. That's going to happen, I guarantee you. I guarantee you. There's a reason I say wait to do this until you've got $5,000 in revenue. I'll tell you why that is in a moment. But I just want you to know what's available to you so you can kind of know the trajectory that you can take. Are you ready? Yeah. Yeah, so when you click it, it's going to take you separately to YouTube because it's not.
We're here on YouTube now.
No, it's not.
Oh, so it's playing.
It's just not showing.
You may have to project a different screen though. Because we don't see that screen that you have here. Okay, well, here's what will happen if we can't get the video to play. If you guys do, well, I'll bring it back up when I'm done, but if you send me a text and then I have your contact information, I will send you the link. It's just a YouTube link. But here, I'll describe to you how it works. Okay, so what's gonna happen in the video is there are 3 kind of main tabs inside of Bubble that you can navigate around. The first is a design tab. The second is a workflow tab. That's where the code happens, or the lack thereof code. The English happens. And the third is a database tab. That's where everything gets saved and all of your information and data changes and saves. So what happens is on the design tab, you drag, drop, point, and click and design it to look however you want, right? This is pretty straightforward. It's really easy for people to usually learn what's on the design tab. Then you've got a workflow tab. And that's where those logic sentences come into play. So you might want to put a workflow on any button so that when you click the button, it does something. Otherwise, the button will just sit there and be cute. So if you want your button to do something, you put some logic on it. When the user clicks this button, then sign them up. And the app will ask you, well, what information do you want me to sign them up with? And you say, whatever they typed into that email box, save that in the database as their email. Whatever they typed into the password box, save that as their password. And this is encrypted. The password's encrypted. Whatever they typed into their name box, save that as their name. Whatever they typed into their favorite color, but you get the point, right? So that's how it works. You do have to do the work of connecting things together. You're still programming. You're just doing it without code. And then after you're doing, somebody said thank you. You're still programming, you're doing it without code. So after you make those changes, you can then click the preview tab or deploy it live. You can have people use it. And then you will see those changes reflected as for you as the admin in the database. So if I go in and change my name from Tara to John, you will see that immediately change in the database. You also can pull up information from the database and do it and modify it and do all sorts of things. That's where it gets more complex. That's where we've built kind of an algorithm, for example, without writing code, matching people to things, a database of artwork, a database of users, match them based on best matches of their taste. You can get really fancy. So I'm going to keep moving on to the next slide. If you guys send me a text, I'll just send you that video and you can watch it later. So if we can go back to the slides, that'd be helpful. Oh, now we're stuck. I shouldn't have gotten so fancy.
Startup grind's a startup, so we're just,
Yeah, you guys are fine. You guys are fine. Anyone ever had something go not perfectly in their startup? Yeah. we know how it works, no problem. So as I mentioned, there's a learning curve to Bubble, right? Because you're still programming. It still takes time to learn. I know a lot of people think like, oh, because it's without code, I can just like snap my fingers and my entire app idea, even though I haven't fully thought it through, will just be on the page perfectly. It does not work that way. And so because there's a learning curve, you just want to make sure that you're using your time well, right? Any time where you're going to invest a lot of time or money or energy in something, you just want to do a little test first, right? And so that's why I encourage people to get to $5,000 in revenue, and you can do this as long as you push out some of your product in some of those other ways, and then kind of graduate into some of these tools like this. So Bubble has a learning curve. Anytime you're going to do investing a lot of time and money into something, test it first. In other words, build a business that happens to have an app, not an app that happens to have a business. You'll be really glad you did that. I'm going to say that again. Build a business that happens to have an app, not an app that happens to have a business. So get clear on the problem you're solving for people. Solve that problem using some of those first and second approaches that I showed you. And then that solution just happens to have some technology that comes along with it. That's the secret to making money with an app, by the way. Because here's the thing. People think that apps equal free or 99 cents. They don't realize how much work we all put into building technology, so they think it equals free or 99 cents. But if you come at them, and this is more of a marketing play, if you come at them and say, here's a solution to your problem, even if, I see a lot of companies do this very well, they're technology companies, but they market it as a service. So they may, for example, have technology that manages your social media, but they pitch it as like, we'll be your social media team. And you go, oh yeah, if I had to hire a social media manager, that would cost a lot of money. You would never say it costs 99 cents, right? So from a positioning perspective, for those of us who are non-technical entrepreneurs, this actually works in our favor, right? If it's just about, oh, the cheap tech, we make very little money from it. If we leverage the fact that we maybe use some more intermediate or beginning steps in the beginning, kind of rig things together, put things together, it actually works really well from a marketing perspective in your favor. So this talk, what we're talking about today, is about building apps without code. But above everything else, it's about rolling up your sleeves and finding a way to launch no matter what. It's about not letting what you can do or can't do get in your way. Because successful people find a way to start no matter what. They launch before they're ready or feel ready. So, quick recap of things we've talked about. Number one, you can build an invisible app by using logic-based tools. There are a couple startups that have done really well and gotten a lot of publicity, press, customers, etc. Magic is one, if you're familiar, with using logic-based tools. Number two, build your product using simple vertical-specific app tools. So if you're building a social network, there's tools out there for you. If you're building a database-heavy product, there's tools out there for you. You just have to look for them. Don't sit on your hands and say, I can't code or I can't find a developer, so I can't move forward. And number three, after you've made your first $5,000 or so, use an advanced tool like bubble.is. You can integrate APIs. You can do all sorts of things with that tool. And if you want to see that demo of the tool and also get that toolkit that I mentioned, if you send me a quick text, Startup Grind has to be one word. Send me a quick text the word Startup Grind to 44222, and I'll send that to you. All right. Also, anyone who wants to get a hold of me as well, my email is tara@appswithoutcode.com. I do a lot of coaching of entrepreneurs, helping them get from idea to actual product in the market. We do that in 3 months. And then we also take some of our programs and we offer them to companies to plug into their curriculum. So thank you so much for being here with me today. If you want to talk about your idea, I would love to.